Hey there, Henry. How's it going?
Good. Man, it's a beautiful day today. Always
It's
beautiful here in California when it's not
gotta
on fire.
gotta soak up the last bits of summer while we still have it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, it looks like we've got some people joining the webinar, which is
Okay.
great. So we'll welcome everyone, and we'll take maybe just a couple seconds or maybe a minute or two, let people keep joining before we get started.
All right.
One thing that was kind of
All right.
interesting last time, I don't know if we want to do this again, Henry, but maybe have people post in the chat where they're calling in from. Both Henry and I are Los Angeles based, hence why we're talking about hot weather, but would love to hear from people where they're calling in from.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys don't mind posting here. What city you guys are Toronto. All right.
Omaha, nice. Philippines,
Okay.
NorCal, Santa Ana,
Washington, D.C.
Des
There you go.
Moines, Washington,
Chicago.
San Diego, Chicago. Man,
Yeah, so
all
someone
over.
from Chicago asked me if we're having an Indian summer this year, and I was like, Indian summer? I think we have one every year in LA.
It's
Oh,
hot. Yeah. Oh yeah, there's a heat
okay.
wave going on right now, right? Although I think that heat wave is kind of going through most of the country at the moment.
Yeah,
I asked my cousin who's currently in South Carolina, and he was telling me, I mean, he's a SoCal born and raised. Dealing with the humidity for him is not typical. So he was complaining about that and get a little spoiled, I
yeah,
think, in the dry summer heat.
yeah. No, New York and the East Coast is like hotter than here sometimes. It's wild, wild year.
Yeah. Well, Henry, we're about 2 minutes
Well,
in. We've got people joining. We've still got some people joining, but feels like we've got a quorum, if you will. So let's kick it off.
let's kick it off. So, thank you everyone for joining. I know everyone's busy, and we're about to end summer here, so busy could also mean you're with your kids too. So really appreciate everyone joining. We have lots to cover, and we want to make room for Q&A. So let's jump right in. I want to do a quick introduction of 3GC. We're celebrating our 22nd year. We've been around for that many years, doing a lot of various different technology managed services, projects, and whatnot. But we're celebrating by launching our Themis data platform. Really excited about that. So we've combined our data service desk offering with our full enterprise data platform and operations to focus on simplifying AI for mid-enterprise companies and growing companies. The biggest difference is that our products are designed and led by former CXOs of these fine companies here, so our technology and business experience is baked into all of our solutions. So quick introductions. Hi, my name is Henry Park. I'm CEO and founder. I started my career with a background in investment banking and M&A. That was many, many years ago. Then 23 years now as a technology entrepreneur, which gives me a very different perspective than most technology companies. My job here is to make sure that we bake in business value into all of our offerings, which is vastly different than most technology companies. I've led the company through many technology evolutions from DevOps to blockchain to AI. But what keeps me going is the culture of our innovative team. We've had a lot of fun throughout these years. Kyle?
Yeah, thanks, Henry. My name is Kyle Millar-Corliss, and I'm the VP of Product and Business Development over here and focus on Themis, our data management platform. So I'm going to go through what we're going to cover today. Four critical topics that will transform how you think about your data strategy. So first, we'll discuss the common mistakes that companies make when trying to solve reporting and data challenges, mistakes that can waste time and money and just overall create headaches for you. Second, We'll show you how to unlock 10x value in your data through multi-source strategic reporting, and we'll obviously drill in and define, what that actually means. Third, we're going to take you through how Themis helps you build AI-enabled business intelligence and sum all that up with a case study of a specific company who deployed using, with NetSuite, showing the transformation from manual reporting to multi-source strategic reporting and eventually AI-driven insights. And then finally, we'll give you a practical roadmap to get AI-ready data that delivers 10x business value. And we'll do this by showing you our path from AI-ready data through a consultation, and how you basically can get your data AI ready. And of course, for people who joined here today, the first 3 people who sign up for this 30-minute consultation will get a free 5K credit towards their first Themis implementation. So I think we're going to drop that into the chat right now. The first 3 people who sign up will get that value. From experience, when we've done this in the past, this goes fast. So if you're interested, definitely jump on that quickly. But I think we should start with some sobering statistics, Henry, that really quantify the real cost of disconnected data. And these numbers come from, recent studies by the Association for Financial Professionals, from McKinsey, and other leading data quality research organizations. So typically, your finance and your ops teams are spending about a quarter of their time on manual data collection and report generation. They're losing about a week of their time just waiting for critical reports to be compiled. And from our experience, this is sometimes hidden or happening like unbeknownst to management. What you think might be taking a few hours per week by 1 to 2 team members might actually be, being done by multiple people in your finance and ops teams across locations or business segments, compiling those numbers. And here's the kicker. 40% of those manual reports contain at least one significant error. And that's just because of human error that we have to deal with if we're doing this manually. I think we've all experienced this challenge in the past. Sometimes you start arguing whether your number is right. And then if you think the solution is hiring your way out of this, you have to think again. Enterprise level data teams cost at least $2 million annually. That's multiple highly experienced, high demand skill sets from DevOps to DevSecOps, data engineers, data scientists. The list goes on. And most growing companies or even mid-enterprise companies just simply can't afford or retain this type of talent until you get to that higher enterprise level size.
While $2 million may seem high and exaggerated for a lot of the companies I know are on this webinar, this is a conservative estimate for companies in the $200 million to $2 billion in revenue range. It would be less for a mid-sized company, but it's still a very significant number. There's a huge disparity between what tools and infrastructure and capabilities large enterprises have around data operations versus what the mid-sized companies are actually dealing with today.
Yeah, thanks, Henry. So these aren't just operational inefficiencies, they're real strategic barriers that are constraining your potential growth. And we see this across lots of different industries. So these costs create 4 critical pain points that we see, irregardless of company size. So first, delayed decision making. Why should you wait until month close to access critical business insights? That delayed reporting creates dangerous blind spots when, markets are moving really fast, especially nowadays when we feel there's a little bit of AI overwhelm. Second, manual reports don't scale. So as your business grows, those Excel spreadsheets and manual processes become increasingly time consuming and error prone. You're just going to have to keep adding more and more people, which is going to compound all of those manual errors that we see within the data. Most of your insights will also be siloed. So sales sees one version, finance sees another, and operations a completely different third. No one is sitting across all that data, and therefore no one sees the full picture. So alignment across the organization can sometimes break down. And ultimately, what ends up happening is, as the management team, you're reactive to a lot of what's happening in your business rather than being proactive. You're not actually looking ahead, you're just reacting to what you're seeing behind, and sometimes in a delayed manner, depending how long it takes you to put that information together. So that brings us to our first poll, where we want to kind of dive into the audience and get a pulse check on where everyone is. So what is your biggest data challenge? And we'd love for you to answer just the one that hits closest to home. So you're going to be able to select one answer here. So we'll leave this open for a couple seconds, let the results come in a little bit. I think what we typically see, Henry, is most companies face multiple challenges simultaneously, but there's usually one that's the biggest pain point preventing the business or the person from scaling effectively.
Yeah, yeah. Curious to see what the audience is dealing with today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's very similar to when we've run this in the past.
Okay.
I think we've got fairly decent participation. Um,
Yeah,
there
showing
we
the
go.
results. There we go.
Thanks, Cedric. Okay, so the results. Our data lives in too many disconnected systems. That's about a third of everyone here. That's fairly consistent what we've seen in the past as well. Disconnected data infrastructure is usually the main problem. I think what's really interesting here, Henry, is we're being asked to implement AI, but don't have the team
Yeah.
or tools to do that at
Yeah.
27%. That's a pretty big number, and I think that
Yeah.
number is growing from the
It's
last
growing.
time.
It grew from last time for sure. Just in a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah. And
That's
then
interesting.
I would say the third closest is the 18%. We spend too much time manually collecting and cleansing data.
Yeah.
Yeah, very
That's such a common
typical.
problem. Yeah.
hmm That's usually that first step, that AI, that data triage that you have to do just to get
Yeah.
your data kind of, ready.
hmm I'm sure the 33% who's dealing with the too many disconnected systems are dealing with this too. They're
hmm
dealing with the manual collecting of data as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for that. Henry, why don't you take us through the real impact?
Yeah. Let's talk about the real impact of having this lack of visibility. When it comes to sales and inventory blind spots, this translates into demand planning and then maturing that into sales and operations planning. The enterprises that do this right, everyone's familiar with Coca-Cola and Procter and Gamble. Well, they spend more money on their data infrastructure than most companies spend or make in a year revenue wise. But we can help you get this down below the cost of hiring one admin. We've really got this down and been able to automate so much of this workflow using a lot of automation tools. Let's talk about financial uncertainty. We all know that cash flow management and growth mode while experimenting with new product lines is extremely challenging. You need as much operational data correlated together to get some sort of predictability in your cash flow. For example, the best practice is to have a 14-week cash flow that takes into account changes in sales, supply, AR, and AP, but it's too time consuming to maintain that on a regular basis without the right tools. Now, when we're talking about performance measuring, you have to get down to the customer promotion and doing this in real time or doing this to near real time, even on a weekly basis, is really, really challenging, right? You can't just do this by looking at transactional data. So, for example, you need to get immediate feedback on the effectiveness of promotions while combining that with the costs and sales lift data. Try to do this in real time is impossible without the enterprise tools. Just to get it once a week, I mean, there's so many manual processes you need to have, and it's really prone to human error. So it's hard to rely on that data. So you can't just trust gut alone. You have to build team confidence around these types of data capabilities.
Yeah, thanks, Henry. So I'll just hit that last point. Without accurate, timely data, executives find themselves making critical decisions based on intuition rather than intelligence, which can be pretty dangerous in today's landscape.
Yeah.
Also, I'm going to I should have done this in the beginning, but I'm going to take a quick break and just say for a little housekeeping, please put your questions in the Q&A or go ahead and put them in the chat. We've already got a couple questions coming in. We'll save those for the Q&A section at the end, but feel free to pop those questions in as we go along.
Okay. Thanks for that, Kyle. Yeah, let me talk about this one. So here's a quick quote from one of our board members, Pat Turpin. He was the former founder of Pop Chips. He's on the board of many companies now, and he knows firsthand what it's like to grow and exit a business. We got many ideas for our platform features from Pat after he walked us through his experience implementing his first enterprise application, which was an ERP, like a lot of CPG companies. And his trials and tribulations were really hard, especially without the proper data infrastructure or the proper technology team. So these nightmare stories about ERP that people talk about is true. It is a very difficult task to put a project to put in there. It could take multiple years to do it right, especially if you don't have the right data. So, a lot of companies that we talk to, they're trying to push it off, right? They're trying to exit before they do this first implementation, and many of the buyers, they'll discount the enterprise value of these companies if they don't have those systems, the data processes to make sure that the data that's based on the valuation can be done on a regular basis. So a common figure that deal makers talk about is that without having these kind of systems and the right data in place, it'll at least affect your valuation by one turn at the very bare minimum. So we'll actually be talking about this at length at the ACGLA event coming up. It's the M&A conference, September 14th through 16th. If anyone's there, come by, say hi. We'd love to talk to you. All right, Kyle, you want to go to the next one?
Yep. Now, many of you might be thinking, why can't BI tools solve this issue? Or some of you also might be sitting there going, we've tried BI tools like Power BI, Tableau, but they weren't able to solve these problems. And I think the core issue is that pretty dashboards on dirty data still give you dirty insights. So the classic adage, bad data in, bad data out. And if we break this down, BI tools depend on source quality and are prone to inaccuracies, whereas a data management solution is going to provide automated checks, automated cleansing, data transformation, all at the warehouse layer, which is going to ensure consistency and that those transformations hold up over time. Whereas BI tools will struggle with large data sets, especially if you're trying to do some of these visualizations with local processing, and then they're going to add high overhead costs to operate the entire system. So from the per user subscriptions to the consultants and the admins and all of the data engineers to build and support it. So the overhead there is usually somewhat of a secret hidden cost. Whereas a data management platform is going to provide you with that fast, scalable processing. It's going to handle large data sets seamlessly, all in the background. And the overhead costs are baked in. Plus, we provide a lot of AI optimized workflows that are going to provide less friction and reduce the cost of that system overall. So, whereas BI tools require significant in-house and outsourced data resources, with the design playbook, we can reduce that implementation friction and really allow for quick time to value. And ultimately, a data platform is going to lead to a much higher likelihood of success with the solution. So whereas BI tools might typically languish and struggle over time, and you might get 9 to 12 months down the road, you still haven't actually solved your data challenge. With a data management platform, you can get up to speed really quickly. And as we'll show you in a bit, our data management platform, Themis, fixes the foundation first. So once the foundation is solid, that's where BI and AI tools can finally deliver the value that they promise. So in short, dashboards are just the last mile. And if you're trying to do that with BI, that's kind of the end result, not the starting point. You need to really start with that data foundation first.
Yeah. BI companies, they do such a great job in marketing. I mean, the dashboards they show that can be created, I mean, it looks magical. But what they don't tell you is the heavy, heavy lift in the data administration you'll need to manage this. It's not as easy as Excel, and you can't get Excel jockeys to manage this. On the flip side, 70 to 80% of the BI implementation project that a lot of people don't know about is actually not technology. It's the organizational change management around your data and data processes. And you can't get an analyst, data admins, or engineers to fix this.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, you want to go
Thanks,
to the next
Henry.
one?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into let's kind of dig into everyone's current tech stack. So we're going to ask a poll here about the tools and systems you're currently using. So on this one, as opposed to the last one, you can select multiple here. So, select all that apply. This gives us a good sense of where you're starting from. So whether you're on spreadsheets, whether you have BI tools, or already have some level of infrastructure in place and a data foundation, or, I'd be interested to see if you have or are starting to use, AI or machine learning tools to forecast. Yeah, so the results are coming in now, and this is, I think we're seeing some consistencies from what we saw last time. Leave this open for a couple seconds. I think one difference I'm seeing here, Henry, is that more people have a data warehouse than we had last time, which means we might have a little bit more data maturity in the audience than we've
Mhm.
seen in the past.
That's great. That's great to see. Here we go.
All
Wow.
right, let's
Look at that.
see. So a lot of people, about half, have a centralized data warehouse. Super interesting. Most people using some form of BI tool. Not surprised to see that most people have a CRM or ERP. I think the democratization of these SaaS tools over the last 10 to 15 years means that most of us have some tool out there and we're already using existing workflows. Um, but the question is, are those systems siloed? Have we connected them together in a warehouse? And are we utilizing that in a good way with the BI tools?
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. Okay. keep keep moving along. So this brings us to the most important concept today. Kind of where we talk about that the results from the poll around the data warehouse, whether using BI. I think what's really the important concept we want to discuss is how do we unlock 10x value through data integration. So an integration doesn't just add value, it's really a multiplier effect. So strategic insights emerge from data intersections, not from individual sources. And the more sources that you connect, the more that data integration leads to exponential strategic insights. We kind of talk about that magic number of 3 or more. So if you think about some of your systems like a NetSuite or your CRM, whether that's Salesforce or HubSpot, or maybe a Shopify if you deal with in retail, perhaps your customer support system where you're tracking all of your ticketing. All of those systems start to really add up for the strategic insights that you can define, such as which products are driving labor inefficiencies, which customers are profitable over time, and not just from a direct marketing, but from a fully burdened view, incorporating your customer acquisition cost, your support within the organization, all of those things. So what we mean about this 10x insight, one of our clients integrated payroll, accounting, and production data. On the surface, each system looked fine. But once you connected all of those different systems together, the story started to change. In fact, what we found is that 60% of overtime was being driven by just a handful of SKUs. Not but in the aggregate, their margin was pretty average relative to benchmarks. But by drilling down into the SKU level, you could see which ones were performing and which ones were underperforming. So, spotting this kind of hidden pattern, they were able to optimize their scheduling, adjust their product mix, and that eventually led to a $2 million in savings annual. That's that 10x insight we're talking about by integrating 3 or more systems. And it really demonstrates the progression from linear insights with one system to comparative insights with 2 systems to that exponential strategic insights with 3 or more, and usually some form of margin savings or opportunity identification.
Yeah. So those are some great examples. We'll have a lot more on the next slides coming up. That true value, that 10x value is so crucial. And it's really in the form. There's a bunch of tools that you could purchase. I see a lot of people with data warehouse infrastructure, but we have to get those different data sets to transform and normalize uh, before we share it with the different departments and get everyone organized around it, so that you could unify these departments into domains where they're agreeing on certain data formats and whatnot. And it takes a lot of organizational change. There's a lot of templates that we have by different industry to make that process very simple. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel on that. But as you're breaking those silos between those departments, man, the value really unlocks.
Mhm.
You want to go to the next slide there, Kyle?
Yeah. So I think most companies that we've encountered have stopped or are stuck in that transactional reporting. And transactional reporting, as we like to call it, is knowing what happened. So, my revenue was $2 million this quarter, or we sold 1,000 units. Our profit margin was 15%. It's very helpful and it's important to have a snapshot of the business, but it's really not enough. These are single source metrics, typically from a finance or an ERP system, and they give you a historical snapshot. But what they don't tell you is the why, those numbers are moving, or even more importantly, what to do next with it. That's where this idea of strategic multi-source reporting comes in. We mentioned at the beginning, but now we'll actually define it. It's when you connect data across systems, so finance, CRM, marketing, operations, getting to that magic 3+ or more, that you start to uncover, business drivers. So this is, customer acquisition costs rose 40% due to a shift in our channel mix. You've combined your, CRM system with your operational metrics. Or 60% of churn is linked to product delays. That's a pretty complicated answer to get to, but you can only get there with multiple systems connecting. Marketing spend shifts boosted my customer lifetime value by 25%. Customer lifetime value is a very difficult metric to get to unless you connect multiple systems. And so this kind of reporting gives you answers with context, not just metrics, but actual insight. And, that's, I think, what as management you really need. Why are we seeing this trend? What's causing this friction? Where should we act next? So the advantage is that, strategic reporting reveals why things happen and then what to do next with it. You stop reacting to numbers and start making those proactive data-backed decisions, which, a lot of businesses struggle with. And we see this 10x pattern, work across multiple industries. So in retail, when you connect inventory, sales, and marketing data, you can accurately predict demand and make smarter decisions about what to stock and especially when. In healthcare, when you bring together, patient data, billing information, and operational results, it can become a really powerful way to optimize care and improve outcomes for your patients. Legal services, when you bring together, matter management, so this is tracking documents or people and their activities. If you combine that with time tracking and billing, you can drive real operational efficiency. And then in SaaS and tech businesses, if you look at, usage, support activity for your customers, and then their actual billing, you can pretty much predict your churn or spot where there's room to grow. Lastly, in financial services, we know when you combine transaction data, CRM insights, and maybe key life events for customers, you can spot, perfect moments to upsell or cross-sell before the customer even asks. So the pattern, while in different industries, the pattern is universal. The most valuable business insights exist at the intersection of your data sources, not just one data source.
Yeah, I love that quote. We got to get that one copyrighted. The most valuable business insights exist at the intersection of your departmental data sources. I love that. So true.
Thanks, Henry. Well, we've got one more poll, or actually another poll. I'm not sure if it's the last one or not. But this is going to help us assess your current analytical capabilities. Really interested to see what type of questions your current reporting can answer. So we'll put that up here, starting to get some requests or some answers now. I think what we typically see, Henry, is that most companies are stuck at that first level. They're stuck at basic transactional metrics. Maybe they get into that second level with the performance context. And I think the way we've designed these is that it definitely build on each other. So they're almost like steps on a ladder. If you have that performance context, maybe you've defined your KPIs, but maybe you're struggling to monitor those KPIs consistently, like we talk about. If you're waiting for monthly close, that can be really difficult to then, move the ship, if you will. Let's see, how are
Okay.
we doing? Okay, here we go. I think we're still
Yeah.
getting a couple
60%,
people
65%.
answering. Yep.
There's some that are in the predictive analytics. Great job.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's great. Most people, 60 to 65% stuck in the, or not stuck, but in those first two levels, basic transactional metrics, some performance metrics with light context. I think what we're talking about, that real strategic value, the strategic reporting is going to come from those cross-system KPIs and the strategic insights. I think that is the gap that we want to address. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely super impressive, the predictive analytics.
Hmm.
That's, I think, ultimately the goal, and also where AI can be really useful. And we'll kind of talk about that in a little bit. Okay. So moving right along, now that we know where we're at, and now that we've seen, a majority of people are in those first two levels, but sounds like some people are starting to experiment and starting to work towards predictive analytics. That's great. How do we solve this? As we kind of alluded to earlier, Themis is not just another, visualization or dashboard tool. Themis is a managed data warehouse built on top of your existing systems, and we know that 75% of you or so have, some form of CRM, NetSuite, accounting system, et cetera. So we built on top of your existing systems, so there's no disruption to your current workflows or processes. We help you create a single source of truth across multiple systems. So that's, centralized and standardized across your systems. And then again, as Henry said, that magical three number, we're going to try to work with you to connect at least three or more of your systems to create that, standardized data platform. We support all of this with our data service desk. So that's actually a, primarily human single point of contact. Our team becomes your team for all levels of your data expertise. So you don't need to build that $2 million plus enterprise data team in-house. We provide that to you with our service. And ultimately, all of this funnels up into an actionable, AI-enabled business intelligence platform where you're making informed decisions with real-time insights, not waiting for those monthly long close processes, real-time, trustworthy, that, you as a decision maker can act on. And I think the key to this approach is that it eliminates a lot of those data disparities and version control. So, since we're layered on top of what you already are using, we can finally give you that, foundation strong enough to eventually build out, your AI capabilities as well.
Yeah. The origin of this architecture came from working directly with CEOs, COOs, and CFOs. They don't want to be super admin users, that's going to require months of training. So they wanted it to be as fast as ChatGPT, and they didn't have the data operations team to make it happen. So we had to integrate our AI platform with our data service desk offering to make it super easy with no administrative requirements.
So I'll walk you through a case study here that highlights how Themis delivers results. One of our clients, which was a private equity roll-up, spent 9 or more months trying to unify reporting with NetSuite and Power BI, a visualization tool. So, but the complexity of their, GL hierarchy, the fragmented systems made a lot of this kind of cross-subsidiary and cross-department reporting nearly impossible. To fill that gap, they turned to consultants and a lot of manual reporting in Excel. And we see this a lot. So this led to reporting delays, high overhead, and ultimately a management team kind of flying blind and being a little bit more reactive than that proactive, lacking visibility into the business. So phase one, of our work focused on building the centralized data warehouse, directly from NetSuite using Themis. We preserved the full GL hierarchy. We customized KPIs by subsidiary and automated a lot of that core reporting. So P&Ls, variance analysis, real-time KPIs. That eliminated most of the Excel work and replaced a large portion of the consultant spend. Now in phase two, we're integrating CRM and marketing data to create that full funnel visibility, connecting customer behavior, campaign performance, and vendor impact. And AI is already accelerating a lot of the insights and reducing the time it takes to get from question to answer. So now executives can explore the data through a self-service natural language query rather than using analysts or having to do some Excel wrangling. And what used to take weeks of manual effort now takes seconds. And I think the return speaks for itself. So over 5x ROI from eliminating a lot of failed reporting efforts and enabling that faster, better decision making across the organization that we talk about.
Yeah. This is the most common problem we see in mid-sized companies. Bring in a BI tool, bring in BI admins, Excel jockeys to fix the data infrastructure and operations problem. And then it takes them a while to figure it out. It took this client 6 months to figure out the reports that they're looking to implement couldn't be done on Power BI. And that was after months of customization to their NetSuite. So it's not the BI admin's fault. They're doing what they're told and using what tools they know how to use and they have access to. You need enterprise data tools and an enterprise team, both of which are baked into our subscriptions.
All right. Now, we've been mentioning AI and how to build an AI-ready data layer. So we're going to start to drill into that. But before we talk about AI solutions and our AI solutions specifically, there's a critical distinction I want to address, and that's the difference between public LLMs and private LLMs. So public LLMs answer in generalities based on internet scale training data. They're great for general knowledge, writing help. They're great coding assistants, and they can really do a lot, in general. These are your chat GPTs, your Claudes of the world, but the important distinction here is they don't have any business context, and they also potentially have some security concerns that you need to worry about if you were to provide it some of that business context. Whereas on the flip side, private LLMs are typically, fine-tuned to your company data or at least have access to your actual, company information. They run in your environment. They provide, business answers based on, the business data and logic that you provide it. And because they're in private environments, they're secure, they're relevant and auditable. However, the trade-off is they require setup and maintenance. But that's typically where a tool like ours comes in. So the distinction is really crucial because most AI implementations fail because they're trying to use general purpose AI for business specific problems. And that's where you really need to bring in private AI. But even then, that could be challenging. There was a recent MIT report which was talking about how 95% of AI projects that have been tried to implement in the last year have failed. So really, there's a big disconnect between the promise of AI, but actually getting it to use usefully within your business.
Yeah. Yeah, most companies are failing trying to apply general purpose AI to company data, and they're not getting the results that they're looking for. To get accurate results, you have to use your company private data with any of your AI initiatives.
Absolutely. And this brings us to, your AI ready, your path or AI readiness. So AI is only as good as the data foundation you build. LLMs are going to amplify both good insights, but also bad data. So you need to get the foundation underneath correct and accurate first. And from a business perspective, AI needs a lot of the context from those integrated systems. Static reports are not going to be dynamic enough to feed to AI. So the path to AI ready data really starts with a clean, connected data foundation and having a single source of truth. AI powered insights with natural language querying, anomaly detection, and real time dashboards can build off of that data foundation. And only after you accomplish steps 1 and 2 can you start to see real value from steps 3 and 4, which is predictive analytics, forecasting what could happen in the business. And then even more, importantly, prescriptive analytics, which is recommending what actions to take based on what you're seeing in your information. Um,
So everyone is focusing on agentic AI these days, and they're trying to automate decisions.
mhm.
Um, but most executives we're talking to, they don't think their business processes, business data is ready to make automated decisions using agentic AI. We'll show you how to get ready for these AI initiatives during our free consultation.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's important to look at AI as this journey, with different levels of maturity. But what we really focus on is, that data foundation you need to build is the first step.
Mm.
So, just to kind of talk about this, and I see a question in the Q&A, which maybe we'll circle back to. This might actually answer some of that around, how do you protect your company's data when you integrate into an AI service like ours? So, Themis AI, it creates your own secure private AI environment built on your data for your team. So, three really important, capabilities. This, all a private, secure environment where all your structured or unstructured business data is clean, normalized, and accessible. And it's a workspace customized and protected solely for your organization. So there's no bleed over with other organizations. We don't use, anything. We don't train on your data, et cetera. Second, you can prompt this via natural language for real insights. So this will query your information, interpret it, build dashboards and reports, and then you can see all of the data lineage for how that insight was created. So you reduce a lot of the AI hallucination concerns that some AI can struggle with these days. And then lastly, we can build it on top of today's best LLMs and kind of interchange those models depending on, choosing the right tool for the right task. So you don't have to be, beholden to any one AI ecosystem. And the great news is that you can do that today. So we can start building and tailoring your metrics and your reports to your team's needs using AI right away. So what does this look like in practice? This just gives a really quick 2x speed version of what we do with our AI. What used to take weeks of analyst time now takes seconds. So you'll see natural language business questions, automated dashboard generation, and then you'll get strategic recommendations, on the side, which usually pinpoint or identify a lot of variance between, different periods. And all of these insights are generated in under 5 seconds from query to result. So we're talking about transforming your data from a reporting bottleneck into that strategic advantage, which is so important. And again, you'll get answers in seconds, so you can really go on your own kind of discovery of your data. And then behind the scenes, Themis uses AI to triage up to 90% of your data challenges. So you don't waste months or weeks fixing problems manually. We do this by, surfacing issues instantly across ERP, CRM, and CSVs before you start your implementation. We can generate diagnostic reports that highlight unused fields, inconsistencies in your data, gaps of where you may not have information filled in. And all of this can then deliver a readiness roadmap that shows exactly what you need to fix to get AI ready. We handle this through our consultation process. So this AI-powered foundation means you're going to move faster toward cleaner dashboards, more accurate forecasting, and then help you build that path to private AI without the usual data firefighting that you might be going through.
Yeah. I know how enticing the AI features are. There's such good marketing out there. Um, it looks like magic. That a lot of the AI tools, it makes it look really easy. And it is when you get the data ready. That's the hard part. So before you go into investing in a lot of agentic workflows to reduce headcount and automate a lot of human decision making, you need to get your private data ready like this in order to make the decision making. You have to do this first. So before you do any form of automation, this is the reason why we actually invented Themis, right? To make that process of getting your data ready faster and easier.
Yeah. So to make this, real for everyone here, how do I get started? We're offering a free 30-minute AI data value assessment. So this is a hands-on discovery session designed to kickstart your journey towards, AI readiness. In just 30 minutes, we'll assess your current data operations maturity, see how much value your current reporting delivers today. We'll identify, which additional data sources to integrate to unlock untapped business value. Typically we can look at either a phased approach, so we can start with a couple data sources and then build that roadmap to how you get to three or more to unlock a lot of those 10x insights. And we want to highlight quick wins. So, how do you improve reporting and decision making today? And then what does that look like over, 3, 6, 12-month period? And then also we can start to already, look at how, your stronger data foundation and where you want to go can pave the way for advanced analytics and AI. We can put our AI feature on top of your data today, but there's also a maturity that we can go through to show how you can get to really advanced level analytics going forward, so you can get to that predictive and prescriptive level analytics that we talk about. So after this 30-minute consultation, you'll walk away with actionable insights and a clearer picture of what it takes to move from, AI-driven reporting. And remember, the first three people who book today get that 5K credit. So that could be a pretty big value to get going and get started.
Yeah. Whether it's an enterprise application or a brand new AI widget platform, there's going to be thousands that launch this week alone. There's so many new AI companies coming out. No salesperson is going to tell you that your data isn't ready, because it'll hurt their sales process. It doesn't matter whether you need Themis or another data platform. This assessment will give you high level understanding of what kind of AI tools and automations your company is ready for. So yeah, book a meeting. We'd love to talk to you.
All right, we did a pretty good job, Henry. We're at 46 minutes. We've got 14 minutes left for Q&A. I'd say we nailed that timing. So would love to start running through some of the questions that we've seen. Let me start pulling those up. We've got a lot of questions here, so we can try to work through some of them. Okay. Let's see here. Henry,
I like this one. I like this
okay.
one. Does Themis handle ongoing data quality issues like duplicates or incomplete fields without us hiring a data team? So it's a mixed answer. The answer to that generally is yes. So we're gonna work with you guys on it. We're gonna have a lot of proactive management around it. The thing is, we don't want to touch the source data. So if there is missing transactional data in your ERP or your finance system, or we're gonna proactively tell you what's missing, so that you can fix it there. But ultimately, you're going to have a full-on data operations team working with you to manage the reports, manage the data ingest. After the implementation of us figuring out the workflow and what data goes from what transactional system field to the data warehouse and to the reports and then the dashboards. We're going to be managing the care and feeding of that administratively. And from a data engineering standpoint, we're going to manage all of that through APIs into your systems and whatnot. And so, yeah, and you will not have to hire your own data team. We're all the way down to even the CISO. So, the security is a really big part of any data platform, and the CISO and the security engineering is all baked into our solution.
Yeah, I think there's been a couple questions in this, Henry, about security, both from, I think keeping the data secure, as well as how can we ensure that, if we integrate their data into an AI service, that it's not being stored, shared, trained, or used to train the models. So I think, kind of discussing just security in general would be helpful. I think you made a great point that that's kind of embedded in data management platforms, but to kind of dig into that a little bit on the data storage side, security is one of the core design principles of Themis and any data management platform. Every client's data is hosted in a, dedicated, segregated environment. So there's no overlap with other companies. And we're using, enterprise grade infrastructure, both within the Google Cloud environment as well as AWS. So, we can do very strict role-based access controls, but everything is very much, secure. So when we integrate with multiple cloud systems, all that data is normalized and stored security. Auditability is built in. Auditability is built in. And again, because we have that secure space, you're not combining it with anything else. And then on the AI side, again, we've built an entirely private AI environment. So, the data stays kind of in your control, inside a secure workspace, isolated from other clients. And we don't use any of your business data to train public models or share it with third parties. So we're using best in class LLMs, but it's all within, again, a secure, dedicated AWS environment. And again, I think another question around, ownership clauses and confidentiality clauses, we can dig into that, on a one-on-one session. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely, book a consultation and we can take you through all of that. But that's definitely something that's going to be different, as we kind of highlighted, between the public and the private LLMs. On a private AI, you can secure and kind of ring fence the AI around that, so none of your data is going out to third parties and being used to train. With a public LLM, you can't ensure that. In fact, that's, inherently not the case. Okay.
Yeah, one more thing to add to that is, and I think this is for the audience that already has their own data warehouse, because configuring and building your data warehouse to be secure, implementing some sort of co-pilot, and making sure that all of that's secure and private and all of that. I mean, that's a lot of work. It's pretty advanced engineering work that needs to get done. We've already done that in our environment, and so if the client wants to use a different reasoning model than what's available on Claude and Gemini, we have a hybrid environment between those two environments. We can do some in open source. We can integrate with Azure and OpenAI if you'd like, and keep it private. Again, our data service desk comes with DevSecOps engineers, full stack developers. And so we could easily do a custom build of Themis if what you're looking for needs to be different and using different reasoning models or whatnot. And the thing is, at that point, we can turn that into a managed service that will, be a lot less costly than building your own team. A lot of that is a project, and then the rest of that is all managed in a private environment that we're managing for all of our clients. And so, but that's a really good question around the AI privacy.
All right,
Here's
I'm
an
going to
interesting
tackle.
one. Here's
Oh, go ahead, Henry.
Okay, go. Yeah. Oh, here I've got one. So we're
Okay.
not ready for a full digital transformation. Does Themis still make sense for a phased approach, right? So what's funny about that question is part of the reason we came up with Themis was because a lot of the mid-enterprise companies were having to deal with the large big five companies, right? So Deloitte, Accenture, Ernst and Young. They love to sell digital transformation. Everything's a digital transformation. And when you're talking about digital transformations, they tend to be, millions of dollars, multi-year endeavors, right? And so I think as they were going down into the mid enterprise space, we had clients that were in that billion, 500 million to a billion range. We were competing against digital transformations, and more often than not, we were telling them, no, you don't need a digital transformation. I mean, you're not changing your business capabilities. You're not changing your revenue streams to be digital. I mean, it's not that transformative. Really, what it is a data project. And so, our implementations would come in 75% less than, an Accenture digital transformation. And we would do it in agile 3-month sprints. And, we would try to get these done in 6 to 9 months, whereas, Accenture was quoting them 3 years to do their quote unquote digital transformation. So basically what we did was take the rinse and repeat. If you're a business that's making a physical product, or you're providing a service, you're a law firm, you're an accounting firm, all of these back-end digital architectures, they're pretty much the same. You can rinse and repeat them. You don't need to, if you've already done it like we have, you don't need to hire a, real high-end technical architect to re-architect what that back-end system looks like. And so, after doing countless numbers of quote unquote digital transformations or data projects for the mid-enterprise, we have the templates, we have the roadmap to building these out. And so that's why we built Themis, because when it comes to so many of these backends, they look the same. And so you don't have to pay for that whole process of discovery and then re-architecting and building it out. And so essentially we've been able to take that project of implementing a full-on data operation and infrastructure down 90% with our subscriptions, with a lot of the automations that we built into Themis. So, our goal is to make this data infrastructure highly affordable and bring the cost down. So, right, we can get it in, make it affordable. Companies that are doing 50 million in revenue, 100 million in revenue, even down to 20 million in revenue. Because if you're paying for a whole lot of manual people, if you're paying for a lot of hours for people to put together these reports, it's going to cost a whole lot less by implementing Themis.
Awesome. I'm gonna hit a couple ones really quickly.
Okay.
There's one in here about what kind of ROI do companies typically see after implementing Themis, which I think is a great question. Most companies see ROI from Themis within the first 90 days, once we get you up and running. Often, as we kind of mentioned with our example, real case study, 5x in the first year. And usually that's by eliminating a lot of the manual reporting costs, that admin overhead and burden that I have. And then I think where it really starts to show ROI in that first year is, surfacing a lot of those multi-system insights that can save, significant amounts of money when you're looking at your buy margin performance, or can start to really identify opportunities in your sales performance, by looking at some of your CRM systems. So we really focus our engagements around quick wins. But then over time, as we start to build out a lot more functionality around your data layer, you see even, larger insights and larger, ROI from that.
Yeah. Do we have time for one more?
I think we probably do. We've got 3 minutes. So Henry, if you've got one more, go for it.
Okay, there's one more. Here's an interesting one. If we scale quickly or get acquired, can Themis adapt to new systems and like this is actually one of the reasons why a lot of private equity firms like us. The answer to that is yes. So once you have Themis in there, you don't have to go redo your back end. A lot of the use case here is, let's say you're doing an acquisition and your company has NetSuite, but the acquired company that you have is on QuickBooks. You don't want to go in and architect and redesign your QuickBooks or implement a NetSuite, because that's a 6-month to 18-month endeavor, right? And so what you could do with Themis is actually use that as a central point, the single source of truth. Take the data in from QuickBooks, transform it, normalize it into the formats that would mix in with the reporting that and KPIs that you have for the business that you want to formulate as a combined effort, as a combined business, and manage your KPIs and data around both companies that way through Themis. That's one of the big use cases, which is why we have a master landowner architecture of the data. So the acquiring company can actually see all the data and KPIs drilled down even to the source level of each company that they're acquiring.
Mhm. Well, we're about time. I want to address one more thing before we go. If you're still here and you asked this question, we got a lot of questions around industry specifics. So, I think the high level we'll just cover really quickly is we cover a lot of different industries from CPG to healthcare to I think someone asked about construction to
Mhm.
hospitality. That's where I think the data value assessment really comes into play where we can drill in very quickly, go through our discovery questions, identify your pain points, and then we can provide, industry specific examples of how you can get to that 10x insight very quickly. So, didn't really cover any specifics today, but if you're looking for, industry specific information, reach out to us, and that's where we really can cover a lot of that in the assessment.
Yeah. Yeah, in construction is actually a pretty good vertical for us, and we've worked with some publicly traded construction companies.
Yeah.
Data is crucial for that
Yeah.
industry. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're out of time. So thank you everyone for joining today and also for the, excellent questions and engagement. There were a lot of them. We didn't get to all of them, so we'll try to reach out to the ones we missed. I think the key takeaway is you don't need to replace your existing systems to unlock exponential value from your data. You just need to connect them properly and build the right foundation. And then that foundation is going to enable your AI driven insights. So regardless of where you are on your journey, we can kind of help you build your next steps and path.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.